Howdy folks, good morning. How are we all doing? It is Sunday, September 19th, 2021, and I'm actually checking out a new spot that I think I recall I've been to once, but it's really been a hot minute. So we're over at the Monty Andrews Arboretum, which is based in Venice, Florida. It is dedicated to a couple. It was Jan and Monty Andrews. They were highly involved in the community, especially when it came to the parks in Sarasota County and recreation. And as part of their efforts, they wanted to keep these parks under protection. And thus, soon after their passing, the county wanted to dedicate a whole arboretum based on their contributions. Now, for those of you who aren't really sure what an arboretum is, it basically refers to a designated sanctuary, but for trees, as opposed to animals. Now, what's fascinating is oftentimes a lot of the trees that are here, or palms, they can either be from the state, so native, or they can be from other countries as well. But here is a difference though. With arboretums, some of you may be concerned on the subject of, can any of these plants become invasive? Not necessarily. There is a difference between an invasive plant and a non-native plant. An invasive plant, what they typically do is they'll take over an entire ecosystem, cause harm to the native plants. But unlike a non-native, it was just simply brought over. But it doesn't cause any harm to the ecosystem. So in this case, we are looking at a lot of non-native plants and trees. So like, take for instance, we got the Yellow Jacaranda. So these little signs are actually quite concise and right to the point. Tells you like the origin, how high they can grow, and how quick they grow. It even tells you like what type of conditions they tolerate, whether it be temperature or even the soil. But this is a deciduous tree, and oftentimes the leaves kind of have like a fern-like appearance. It's actually really cool, by the way. I have noticed too, while looking at the tree, they have a tendency to produce these pods right here. So I'm under the impression that this is how they reproduce. But yeah, just looking at the leaf pattern, it just reminds me of being back up in Ohio and looking at the black cherry or even the black locust, for example. But then to my left here is actually something called a Ponytail Palm. And since their origin is in Mexico, they honestly aren't too far away. But what I found most fascinating is the fact that it's not a succulent, or that it's not a palm, but rather it is a succulent, as a matter of fact. But it's just, that's the thing about Florida that I've been learning these past couple of months. You can introduce non-native species, and yet they can still thrive just as fine. And honestly, like, some of the regions that they come from aren't really that far away, because they experience a very similar type of climate, which is typically your subtropical and tropical climates. The difference between subtropical is you're nearly getting to the equator, but not quite yet. And plus, with subtropical, there's still some chilly temperatures that can happen every now and then. But yeah, here it talks about the Karnarooba Wax Palm. So apparently these are from Brazil, and let me see. Okay, so they're well known for their wax on the leaves themselves. Unfortunately, we can't reach up to touch the leaves, but Karnarooba wax, that's actually fascinating to me because, for instance, a lot of gummies that we like to eat, take for instance gummy bears, right? I'm sure some of you love eating them, just as I have. But oftentimes those gummies have that Karnarooba wax. That's what gives it that shiny texture when you look at it. Or if it's in the light, it kind of glistens. Well, it's that Karnarooba wax that does that. But yeah, it's actually quite overwhelming because there are just so many separate displays of the types of palms and trees around here. It's quite remarkable. And we've even got another specimen, the silver date palm. These I have actually seen a couple of times throughout some of my travels down here. But you can actually see, like, it's even suited for Florida conditions. But as it's saying on here, you want to watch out for the leaves, as they do indeed have sharp fronds. Kind of makes it feel like it's a bayonet. But don't confuse that with Spanish bayonet, which is another plant that I've mentioned in a separate video. Wow. It's just really cool. Or oftentimes too, a lot of palms are named according to the region that they come from. So like right here we've got a Canary date island date palm, and of course they're from the Canary Islands. Can't quite remember where the Canary Islands are though, right off the top of my head. But same thing, like this can thrive just as fine in Florida. And as many of you know, a lot of non-native palms and trees are introduced to a different region because it adds a bit of ornamental value to, say, a property, right? And that's why we have to know what is native and what isn't. Because that's the thing, like, sometimes if a plant is non-native, it may not necessarily be pollinated properly. So that's why typically they may just be isolated, such as where we are right now. But this is well worth checking out, you guys. I mean, it's in Venice, Florida, and it's practically right in the downtown area. And yeah, I've been coming to Venice for several years now. And I've always enjoyed visiting this town in Sarasota County. So, all right, you guys. Thought I would share some of this with you guys. Hope you learned something out of it. I mean, it's just neat to me, just learning about what different palms exist in our planet and how they're able to thrive, even in Florida as well. So, for someone like me, it's important to really tell those differences and looking for specific characteristics. But it's also a means of relaxing, right? have a chance to learn and relax at the same time. So it's quite interactive. So alright, you guys, hope you enjoy your Sunday, and once again, Journey on a Journey is ours. Take care, folks. See ya.